everybody, it's Femtrooper, and today I'm going to be sharing some games that I dropped. Now, I want to make it really clear that most of the games on this list I actually like, which makes it actually frustrating for me to have dropped them. It's really annoying, I'm mad about it, it's pretty much my issue. But I'm just letting you know that a lot of these games I actually like, so I'm pretty bummed that I dropped them. Of course, before we get into it, please make sure you're subscribed. If you're not, click like and let me know which games have you dropped. Let's start this list off with a game I recently dropped. I was done. It has many issues, so let's get into it. It's Monster Crown. So if you're wondering, what the heck is that? Monster Crown is actually a pretty neat game, but it's not great. So it's very much like Pokemon. It's a monster taming game, and it looks like kind of Game Boy Color era graphics. So yeah, it sounds awesome. The game is actually quite stunning. I love the look of it. It looks really great, really cool music. It really brings you back to that late 90s era on the Game Boy Color. It's really cool. But the story is really just okay. It takes a really long time for you to wonder, okay, why am I doing anything? Like, in Pokemon, it's very clear from the get-go that you are an adventurer to become a Pokemon Master, to get 8 badges, blah blah. But with this, it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go to this town now. I'm gonna do this. But you're like, why am I even doing anything? And then finally, some things become apparent, but it's pretty slow. So, yes, it has more of a story than Pokemon does, but the story's not great. Secondly, the game is glitchy. It's very buggy. It's not unplayable, though. And now, I played the Switch version as of now, like 2024, and I've heard from some people it's not playable. I've heard from some people it totally is. For me, it was. Now, there were definitely some glitches, though. Like, you walk around where you can see your monster on the screen, and then sometimes my character would just disappear. And that happened to me in, like, a dungeon, and it was very frustrating. Very annoying. I don't even know what was going on there. It definitely has glitchy issues where you just can't move certain areas, or I don't know, the game's buggy. But it never straight up turned off on me or made it so bad it was unplayable. But I am just saying, if you want to give this a shot, just know it's not perfect. It's definitely buggy. This is not, like, I don't want to say it's obvious that it's an indie, made game, but kind of. It definitely needs work. I just found the game to be tedious, and it got a little boring for me. It has weaknesses and strengths, like in Pokemon, you know how like fire beats grass, that kind of thing, water beats fire. But the types of monsters in this game, they're very confusing. They don't really make sense. So to me, it was like, okay, it was hard to memorize what beat what, or what was weak to what. It was kind of weird, and it just got a little bit boring. And I was like, I'm having to grind and having to, level up my monsters, and that's fine. But it just got to a point where I stopped caring, and that's pretty much the reason. I was kind of just bored, but the game isn't horrible, so I may return to it one day. Unlikely, because I don't like dropping games, but as you guys know, I beat a lot of games, and it takes a lot for me to just give up, and I was feeling really just bummed that the game was not really ending and that it was just dragging despite it not actually being that long. So yeah, I kind of had enough with it. If you've played Monster Crown, I would like to know your thoughts. It didn't vibe with me. I would like to play another monster taming game that's better, that even looks like this. So I've heard of other ones, but this one, yeah, wasn't for me. Here's one that I actually do want to go back to, so much so that I'm going to restart it from the beginning and give it my best shot, because I gave it my best shot like 10 years ago, and I feel like I'm a better gamer now, so maybe this will become a game I beat, and I would love to talk about it, and I'm sure some of you guys know what it is. I'm going to hold up the version I was actually playing, because I do own this on several systems, but it's Final Fantasy X. So I was playing the remaster on the PlayStation 3, but I have since purchased the same thing on the Switch, and that's the version that I would actually play if I were to go back and play it. Now, I got pretty far in this game. I got to, I believe it was Unalesca at the very end. Like, that's like 2 bosses away from like the end. So I'm pretty like legitimately bummed about Final Fantasy X not being a game that I've beat, because if I'm honest with you guys, whenever I talk about my favorite Final Fantasies or my favorite games, I always want to mention Final Fantasy X, but I don't because I've never beat it. And it's just a personal thing that I only mention games that I've actually completed. I want to see end credits because to me it's like, I've seen it. It's kind of like saying, oh, that's my favorite movie, but I didn't watch the end. Like, it's just weird. So I don't ever include it. But because I've spent so much time on it over the years, I mean, I played this game back when it came out on the PS2, and then when it got remastered, I was so excited, and I got that. And then I have this, so it's like, oh my god, I like the game. And so, if I'm honest, it's one of my favorite Final Fantasies, if not potentially my favorite. So it really hurts knowing that I didn't beat it. So fingers crossed for me that maybe one day I can give it my best shot and beat it. Here's a game that I actually don't have the physical anymore because I actually got so bored and just didn't like it that I traded it in. And unfortunately, that's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I'm sorry I didn't like it. It was so boring to me. I could care less what I was doing. It really felt like some generic PS2 game that looked absolutely stunning, but I could care less about. Like, it was so immensely boring. I didn't want anything to do with it. Every task I had to do, I was like, no. And it really didn't take long. Like, I probably played a couple hours and I was like, I don't like this. This is not my style of game. Now, I love platformers, so, you know, give me a Donkey Kong game any day. But to me, this was really like kind of a action shooter thing, and I don't typically play games like that, and I didn't like it. So it felt really crappy because I really wanted to like it, and I wanted to play something different that was a little bit outside of the box for me. But I gave it my best shot, and I just didn't like it. It was just really boring. I'm sorry, boring is the best word because I was not engaged. I did not want to continue. So then I thought, why am I doing this to myself? I stopped it, I started up a new game, and I traded that in. This is a game that I have tried several times and almost beat it, and then I'm embarrassed. I don't know. Here it is. It's Final Fantasy VIII. I don't love this game. Now, here's the deal. This is my original copy as a teenager, and at the time, I thought this game was phenomenal. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I'd never seen a game look like this, be like this. You know, I liked the story, the characters, I was so into it, but then I never ended up beating it. Not because it got too hard, I just ended up dropping it, because back then I'd play a game for, 6 hours and then do something else. Because I was 14. I don't know, whatever. And then years later, I was like, oh, I don't know, and I started it up, and then I thought, wow, this is not great. Like, I'm not loving this game, but I do want to play it. So I ended up actually getting the remastered version on the Switch. I got the digital copy, and then I ended up getting this pack, which has Final Fantasy 7 and 8 in it. So awesome. So I have it. I have both of these digitally. That's why I haven't opened this, but I had to have it, physically because it's Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy. Even the ones I don't like, I still own them, It's just, I don't know. It's kind of like Pokemon. There's Pokemon games I don't like, but I still have to have them all. Yeah. So regardless, I gave Final Fantasy 8 another shot about 5 years ago, 4 to 5 years ago, and I got really far, and then I actually couldn't beat a boss, and I got mad, and then I dropped it. It was at the very close to the end, and here's where I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed because the game on the Switch has difficulty settings, and it makes it quite accessible, and the fact that I still couldn't beat it made me even more mad. And so, yeah, it was dropped. I have heard, and I've looked it up, that it's kind of like one of those things where the more you level up, the more the bosses and enemies level up. And I think that's what happened, is even with the easy mode stuff on, I couldn't beat it, and it got really annoying. So I would actually maybe go back and see what was going on. Why could I not beat this? Give it another shot. Because if that's the case, I will beat it. I would love to check this off my list. So it's not 100%. But yeah, it got really frustrating, and a part of me was like, well, I don't even like this game anyway, so who cares? And I dropped it. Okay, now here is one that I actually like the game, but it was just kind of so frustrating and tedious that I thought, I just don't care enough to beat it, but I still kind of like it in a way, and that is Alien Isolation. Now, the game is really cool, visually great. This is one of the scariest games I have ever played. Seriously, it is brutal. And I remember when I got this, I was playing it, and I actually got pretty far, And then I got to a really annoying part where these androids just kept taking me down, and I was like, I've had enough of this. So I dropped it. And then years later, pretty sure it was last year, I was like, I'm going to play a game. It's October. I'm going to beat Alien Isolation. Who cares? This is great. I'm going to start it up again. I don't care. I'm not scared. And then I'm going to play it. Now, can I play this game in terms of like, because I'm not, yes, I'm not scared. I can actually play this. But I will say, when you hear the alien coming and you hide in a locker, it's pretty good. Like, it's intense. I really like this game. But then I have to say, I was looking at a walkthrough because sometimes it's really annoying. You don't know where you're supposed to go, and I'm not a person who likes exploring. I really just like knowing where to go, and because it's not that kind of game, you kind of have to just go around and figure it out yourself. And I'm sorry, I don't like that. I hate it. I really do like direction. I'm a real linear person here. And it got really tedious and annoying, and I would just die, or I wouldn't know where to go, and I actually just dropped it because I just stopped caring. So I like the game. It's really cool. And yes, it is terrifying. This is a wonderful game. Like, play this, you know, in the dark, really loud, or even with headphones. It is legitimately scary. And I like that because I like being scared. It was more just the tediousness and just, I don't know. I thought, I don't care. And I dropped it and, you know, put back a JRPG in the console and started playing that. So I don't know. Yeah, this is a cool game, but it just got too much for me. You knew this one was going to make an appearance. Yes, it's Octopath Traveler. I didn't mention it in my last video, and I'm mentioning it now. Octopath Traveler. Wow. So most games that I drop that I hate, I trade in. If I still like them or think I'm going to beat them or something, I keep. And that's why some of these I've been able to hold up, because some of them I don't hate. It's because either I suck, and that's fair, I'll admit it, awful here at games maybe, I don't know, or it's just, I still like it. So this game to me has so many positive things going on. I mean, visually, it's one of the best looking games I think I've ever seen, and this started a whole thing with the HD 2D craze, and I love it. The music is amazing. I love the battle system, really unique and fun. It's always nice to see something new and refreshing with JRPGs. So yeah, I love the game. It's great. The story though, pretty boring. The 8 characters, the Octo part, right? They don't really mesh and don't really go together, so that was kind of like disappointing. So I didn't really care about what I was doing, so that kind of was boring. And then I got to chapter 3, there's 4 chapters, so I got pretty far. I was about 30 hours into this game. And it got so hard that like I would grind for like hours and get nowhere. And then I thought, I can't do this. Like, I will grind if I know for sure it's working and I can get past something. Like in Dragon Quest, where you're like, oh, okay, this boss is hard, I'll grind to this level and beat it, we're done. This was not like that. I was literally grinding so hard for money and buying things and getting absolutely nowhere and just getting crushed. And I thought, you know what? Bye. I can't take this anymore. So I'm hoping that I like Octopath Traveler 2 a little bit more because yes, I did buy it recently and I want to try it because I've heard it's maybe a little bit more accessible. I know it doesn't have difficulty settings, but like, if this had difficulty settings, I would have beat this years ago. It's one of the first Switch games I ever had, and I was so excited about it when it came out. I was like, just loving it, and whatever, and now I didn't have the patience or time, and it just really drove me nuts, and it is one that bugs me, because I know it's like, you know, most people, you know, consider it a really good game, and I've heard, though, that people like the second one more, so I will try the second one, and part of me is like, maybe I'll go back and see what was I doing. Because, like, I'm totally going to admit, like, yeah, is it my problem that I was not doing something right? Because I feel like I'm clearly doing something wrong if I'm grinding this much and not getting anywhere. Something is off here. Either I'm not grasping, you know, the battle system correctly, or I don't know. I don't care. That's fine. Like, I'm a person. I'm a human being. I'm not good at all these games, and that is totally fine with me. But yeah, this one's a bummer, and it does kind of drive me nuts that I didn't beat it. So I still own it, and it's still looking at me watching, and yeah. And lastly, here's a game that I don't have anymore, so clearly didn't like it, don't care about dropping it, doesn't bother me whatsoever, and that is Harvest Moon 3D: A New Beginning. So I got this weird itch to play a Harvest Moon game like maybe 7-8 years ago, and I was like, okay, you know, I remember playing Harvest Moon on the PS2 and thinking it was fun, and I thought, I want, like, a great Harvest Moon game. So I ended up picking up Harvest Moon 3D, A New Beginning, on the 3DS, and I was so excited about it. I was like, oh my god, like, I'm gonna play a Harvest Moon game, I'm gonna get back into these farming sims, it's gonna be so great. And then I was like, oh yeah, I don't like farming games, what am I doing? And just completely dropped it. I stopped caring because it was just the same thing day in, day out. Nothing was happening, not really a story, and super boring to me. So I don't have much to say about that. It's not that the game is bad. In fact, I think a lot of people hold that one pretty highly and really like that one. But I just don't like farm games at all. So none of them are going to appeal to me, and that's okay. And this was kind of like the last straw. It was kind of like, okay, I can confirm I don't like the genre. And that's okay. And it was kind of like, I get it now. So if a farming game comes out, I'm usually like, no, it's just not for me. That kind of sealed the deal. Like, okay, don't like this. So those are more games that I've dropped. And again, I've explained, I don't hate them all, and I don't really hate any of them. Just some of them I didn't like in terms of they were boring to me. But like, honestly, you have your own reasons for dropping games. Everybody does. Sometimes something is just too hard, and sometimes you just don't like it, and that's okay. And I need to be better with dropping games because I know that sometimes I push through stuff I don't like, and that's maybe bad. Sometimes I'll do it if I know I can do it, and then sometimes I'll just, yeah, it has to be really like not doing it for me to drop it, and then sometimes I just drop it because I'm not good at it, and it's not, I can't continue. I'm not progressing, and then that makes me even more bummed. So yeah, it's frustrating. Tell me what games you've dropped recently, and of course, I'll see you guys in my next video.